So this is a reference to British soldiers. We weren't expecting this story, who've gone AWOL, and they've gone off to fight in Ukraine. So the headline is Queen's Guard AWOL to fight Vlad. They're reporting The Sun that a 19-year-old Coldstream Guardsman has abandoned his post to help fight Russia in Ukraine. He's said to have quit his barracks in Windsor. He's left a note for his parents. He booked a one-way ticket to Eastern Europe, and he apparently is there already, one of 4. The fear is that Russia could capture them and then say, well, Britain has entered the war. Do you think, JJ, that the army should court-martial them immediately so they had nothing to do with the British army?
Yeah. Look, the kid, he's 19 years old. He is a kid, really. It's incredibly brave, but incredibly naive of him to have done this. I think, yeah, be court-martialed. He's probably going to get dishonourably discharged now, and that's his army career over. Because ultimately, we cannot risk Putin thinking that we are sending our soldiers over there to fight in this battle.
But I was so struck in this article, a friend of him said he's really bored of parading in a bearskin hat as war is raging in Ukraine. He's had enough. He's fed up. He was promised an operational tour, and so he's gone out there. Something wonderful about that, isn't there?
You know, we have 24-hour media coverage on this. We are telling people that they have to care for what's happening in Ukraine, about what's happening and about the people of Ukraine. We're telling them they have to see the monster that Putin is and how unfair it all is. Is it any surprise that someone like him, we want people to care, so he's gone off to fight? I mean, I think it's an incredibly brave thing to do, as JJ said. It's a very naive thing to do. But, I don't think, and he probably will be court-martialed, but I don't think he should be necessarily. Who cares? The argument from the Ministry of Defence is that Putin will think it's part, Britain are getting involved. No, they won't. It's 4 people. And there are a lot of ex-servicemen who've gone there anyway to fight. So, Putin would think the same thing. But, Putin thinks whatever he tells people whatever he wants them to hear. I mean,
the problem is,
so
JJ, doing anything because Vladimir Putin thinks a certain thing. Does that not put us in a situation where we're appeasing him?
Yes.
Yeah, it potentially does. But there's conflict in Yemen. We're not having British soldiers fleeing to go and fight over there. There's problems. There's a conflict in Ethiopia and with Eritrea. They're not fleeing to go over there. We cannot let these soldiers do as they wish and just go and fight in a war.
Well, if
you're an ex-serviceman, that's up to them to do what they want to do.
Tell me something. Why would Putin view that differently? Why would he view a man who left the army a year ago differently from a man who's now in the army?
I would assume he'd see it differently because the British army have been told you are not to go over there. So
how would Putin know that one soldier was a serving one and one left the army 6 months ago? How would Putin know?
Well, Putin has lots of ways, doesn't he?
Putin makes stuff up. So whatever he says about what's happening over there, we can't believe
We've got to assume he doesn't want to declare war on Britain, because assuming that he declares war on Britain, then Britain would have the right to a first response, wouldn't it? You don't even want to think about...
This is a big fuss about nothing, I think. Seriously, I do.
Really?
Yes, I do.
So what happens if more soldiers from the British Army choose to go across there?
They're not going to.
Well, how do you know they're not going to?
Because I suspect...
We've just got 4 now who've gone. How do you assume?
Well, how do you assume they are?
Because of the example set by these 4. I'm asking the question. These 4 have now gone and done it. So let's stop other soldiers thinking the same. We're bored. We're not doing anything.
You said it at the beginning. This particular guy who's been named is 19 years old. Mm-hmm. He's naive. I don't believe that a serving soldier who has experience of war is going to go and do that.
I was speaking a couple of weeks ago to a doctor who has military connections, and she told me that they are so worried about even tweeting by soldiers or medics. They've said, stay completely off social media. Don't say, retweet, like anything about Ukraine. That's even if you're a soldier, you're not even allowed to say good luck Ukraine on Twitter, let alone go out there.
So do we really want to wreck a young soldier's life to appease Putin so he won't get caught?
Well, that is the question of whether this is a policy of appeasement here. I suppose that is the issue here. Let's look at what the official government legislation says about somebody who does this. Any person subject to military law, which would be a soldier, who absents himself without leave or improperly leaves his ship shall, on conviction by court-martial, be liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years or any less punishment provided by this act. So he does face military jail. Love your thoughts on this, Storm.
We're going to speak to an ex-soldier now. This is Derek from Devon.
Go on, Derek, what do you think?
Yeah, good morning. A big hello to Carol.
Hello.
Hi. As an ex-soldier myself, I joined up in 75, left in 92, and we used to train basically for the Cold War. And we used to look at Russia as like an itch you can't scratch. Now, serving soldiers today, obviously, they have their orders. Now, these 4 young lads, the first thing I'm going to ask is who leaked the information about these 4 young lads going to Ukraine? Because, as you know, the Russians, they pick up on our media. Putin is going to say, right, British got troops on the floor now. They're not going to say how many, but they're going to exaggerate the numbers. You've got Truss saying, yes, you can go over and fight if you wish. I can understand ex-servicemen wanting to go over because it's an opportunity for them to have a crack at the Russians and help out Ukraine. But at the same time, you've got our serving soldiers now who would love to go over there and have a crack.
Well, but hang on. This guy said he's sick of parading in a bearskin hat. He wants to do something to change the world. Do you have any sympathy with that, Derek?
Well, you join the British forces to go abroad and fight in conflicts. That's what it's all about. Not to go parading on parade squares and looking nice and whatever for the public. So in one way, I can understand these 4 lads going, and I back them to the hilt. But at the same time, the MOD have told them they can't go, so they have to suffer the consequences.
All right, Derek, thank you very much indeed. Go on.
Derek, when you said you said earlier that talking about a leak, who do you think might have leaked this information?
The media.
Well, it's gone to the media. No, it's gone to the media.
It's gone to the media.
The family won't talk.
It could have been fellow soldiers.
I think it's his mates. He did post, I think, on Instagram, a picture of just his army boots.
On Snapchat, yeah.
And his mates then thought he's got into Ukraine. They think he's there already, you know. And I notice his family are really stressed out, as you can imagine, and they're not talking, and he's not being identified. And he's one of 4, apparently. So, and who knows? Maybe JJ's right. Maybe tomorrow there'll be 20. Who knows? This is a very strange situation. Storm.
We're going to speak to Jackie now from Essex, who left the army 40 years ago.
Go on, Jackie. What do you think should happen here?
Well, if he come back alive, because remember they're not covered by any conventions, they will be kicked out. It's not a case of maybe they'll be kicked out. They will be kicked out because they have broken military discipline. You see, a lot of people don't understand the military work as a team. They're called bricks and platoons, and if you've lost one cog in that clock, it doesn't work.
Is it? But Jackie, does Britain need to court-martial them now, today, to show they're nothing to do with us? Or are we actually quite proud of what they've done?
They'll be made an example of. No, as an ex-military person, I'm not proud. I'm not proud of what they've done, because what they've done is they've destroyed a unit. They've destroyed a team. Because, you see, that team can't work now.
Yeah.
But what were the team doing is the question. But
the team were parading. They were guards, weren't they?
Jackie, can I ask you a question, please? How would the rest of the soldiers who this guy's left behind, people in his platoon, whatever, how would they feel knowing that this guy has broken the rules and gone across to Ukraine?
Let down, angry, because you see, in a situation, these teams. Take my brother, for instance. He was in a Malta team, and they work as a team. And if you haven't got one team working, that leads to the others. They may be dead.
Yeah. Okay, Jackie. Thank you.
Really speaking, my father was in the Royal Scots Guards in the last war, 1934, joined up till 1944, killed in Italy.
Wow.
But he had to do loads of education programs, even during the war. You have an education program that gives you all the protocol.
Yeah.
And in it, it's you fight for Queen and country first. Your first allegiance is your own country and your king and queen before any other country, until you're given orders to go elsewhere.
Yes, I hear you, and I totally understand. I suppose the other side of this was, if we look into this young man's head, he's got an amazing sense of right and wrong, hasn't he?
Oh, yes, I think they're very brave but foolhardy, because you can't go against what the army has taught you, and you're taught to obey rules, and rules are to be obeyed.
I hear you. I know it's very difficult. Do you think we are appeasing Putin by tiptoeing round him like this?
Yes, we are, but we can't go into the air, and we can't not play by the rules, because otherwise it will be a third world war.